The thing is, this is what Andy Ngo does all the time. He did it with the cement milkshakes. He did it by leaving out the information about Patriot Prayer when they were talking about assaulting Antifa with deadly weapons that they offers of protection that we have audio evidence of. We did it with the claw hammer incident, and he does it all the time. How do you know the picture wasn't taken after the hammer made it into the bus? Okay, I think we're being a little... I think we're trying to really drag this segment out, and as much as I appreciate the continuation of my YouTube monetization and the more money I could make out of having this be a longer video, subscribe, by the way. I think we should be clear. The bus drove off after the bus door closed, I'm pretty sure. So I don't think that would be possible. Not only did the bus drive off, but I also believe that, like, there is footage of these individuals engaging with this. Like, I mean, we can pretend that they threw it and hit him and then they reopen the door to just take a few more swings. You don't think that's a legit question? I'm just wondering. I think the evidence is pretty clear. I mean, multiple reporters at the scene said this is what happened, and we have a picture of this happening. Okay. Everybody knows Andy Ngo. Andy Ngo is a journalist, an icon, a hero, someone who's standing up against the real fascisms, right? And he was attacked recently. So he went to, a journalist. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. He recently was, I believe it was in Portland, Oregon. And while he was there, he dressed up as an Antifa. He put on like some black clothing, had like a BLM flag, and certain people there were saying that he was like trying to incite stuff. But of course, him saying that he was reporting on stuff. We got no evidence that he was inciting anything. So I'm just going to give Andy, even though I shouldn't, the benefit of the doubt and say he was doing a undercover operation, right? Is that he was there like with the secret cameras trying to cover what the Antifa was truly like from the inside, right? That's what I'll say he was doing. And what happened was that people within the black bloc started to recognize him. It was like, some say they started to recognize him because he was like talking about passing out fireworks, stuff like that. Again, we're just going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that didn't happen, but people started to recognize him. And eventually, a scuffle broke out. He was punched, assaulted, and he fled into a Hilton, a hotel, until I believe authorities arrived and he could evacuate. He does have some injuries, which we can't show on stream because some of them include blood, and blood is TOS. Now, before I say anything else, before I get into the deep meat of who Andy Ngo is, because this is actually the first time I've covered Andy Ngo on this channel in the year and a half that I've had it. Andy Ngo is a journalist who covers protests. Now, he should not have been assaulted. He should not have been punched, beaten, or any of the above. I believe that the best thing they could have done is shoot him out of there. Like, we know you're Andy Ngo. Get out of here. We don't want you here. We know what you do. And kick him out. I don't think he should have been assaulted. I think that's bad. I wanted to say that right off the top. Now, yes, he should have. Okay, for everybody who's saying yes, he should, that's going to be quick bans. So we're going to tell everybody to stop because this is Twitch and I'm not putting up with that on my channel because I'd like to keep my job. Okay, so everybody who's saying that, we're going to purge, but if you do it again, that's a ban. Okay? Wonderful. Andy Ngo, though, let's be clear, there's a reason why he got such a vitriolic response, and the reason why some random Twitter dude who wrote some book is so well known on the streets is because he has a reputation. A bad reputation. And not like bad as in cool, as in bad as in bad. Andy Ngo is not a journalist. Andy Ngo is a propagandist who LARPs as a journalist. He is someone who misconstrues, lies, lies normally and also lies by omission, who freely chats with people who are talking about how they're going to beat the hell out of left-wing protesters later, doesn't cover that, but will then misconstrue and try to use certain camera angles to make it look like the lefties started a fight, when sometimes it wasn't the lefties, it was actually the righties. We're going to talk about some of these examples today. So what I'm trying to get at is, even if he didn't deserve to get punched, let's not do some Rush Limbaugh style revisionism here and say that this is some nice, wonderful journalist fighting to show what Antifa is truly like, and Antifa didn't like that, and that's why he was punched and attacked. Florian Egonox, thanks so much for the Prime Gaming. That's not why he was attacked. Let's read his thread quick before going into the history of him. No journalist in America should ever face violence for doing his or her job. Well, this statement doesn't really apply to Andy Ngo because, he's not a journalist. Yet on Friday, May 28th, Antifa tried to kill me again while I was reporting on the ongoing protests and riots in Portland, Oregon for a new chapter of my book, Unmasked, Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy. I was chased, attacked, and beaten by a masked mob, baying for my blood. Had I not been able to shelter wounded and bleeding inside a hotel while they beat the doors and windows like animals, there is no doubt in my mind I would not be here today. Their words, like their actions, speak for themselves. And then a bunch of like tweets of like, hey, Andy Ngo is over here. Go get him, beat him up, right? Antifa wants me dead because I document what they want to stay hidden. The attacks against me and the threats on my life are retribution for my work as a journalist, recording the tactics and true ideology of an extremist, clandestine movement that relies on deception and regards the truth as the greatest threat of all. They want the right to hide their identities behind masks and erase records of their arrests and alleged crimes. They want me dead for capturing these things and reporting on them. But it is the right of every journalist protected and preserved by the Founding Fathers to report freely without fear. The rest of this is basically like moral grandstanding, right? Moral grandstanding, posting pictures of people, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So the story that Andy Ngo writes here is the reason that he was attacked was because Antifa are a bunch of cowards, and Antifa didn't want the truth coming out about their organization. Not an organization, but whatever. About their group, or whatever you want to call it. The reason why he was attacked on site, and they even know who he is because Andy Ngo has a long history of deception, lies by omission, and demonizing of Antifa. Let's go into a few of these examples as to why this occurred in the first place. So, the first thing I want to talk about is, of course, the cement milkshake, which never happened, right? There was no cement milkshake. This story is very famous. Andy Ngo was attacked with a milkshake. Someone hit him with a milkshake, and he was one of the many people who alleged that these milkshakes were filled with cement, and then posted a lot of bogus proof that later was even, I think, pushed by a local police department before it had to be retracted. Now, should people be assaulted with milky beverages? No. But to claim that it was any more than getting hit by some milky beverage is a lie. Okay, that's not super bad, all things considered. It's bad because it's demonizing and being untruthful, but if this is all Andy Ngo did, then whatever. But it isn't all Andy Ngo did. He also has a history of leaving information out of a story to make it seem a lot more one-sided. Here is a great example of this. Let's see if I can find it. This is the Rolling Stone. I think this is the one that includes it. The provocateur and social media personality who garnered nationwide sympathy last June when he tweeted that he was attacked by anti-fascist protesters at a Proud Boy rally. Last week, the local newspaper, the Portland Mercury, reported that a left-wing activist going undercover as a member of Patriot Prayer a far-right group known for promoting and engaging in violent clashes with leftist activists, had given the publication an 18-minute video that included footage of Andy Ngo with a group of Patriot Prayer members as the members discussed an upcoming brawl, including weaponry to be used in altercations with Antifa. Ngo, who describes himself as a journalist, did not record the conversation and does not appear to have his camera or notebook out, for the part of the footage is seen on his phone. The source told Mercury that Ngo and the Patriot Prayer have an understanding that the group offers him protection when he covers rallies in exchange for favorable coverage. Andy Ngo strongly denies these allegations. An audio conversation between members of the Proud Boys released this week seems to confirm that such discussion between Andy Ngo and the Proud Boys had occurred, as one man is recorded saying Ngo was attacked on June 29th because he refused an offer of protection. Andy Ngo was told that if he wanted protection for the Proud Boys, he went in with us and he went out with us, the man said. So, what I'm talking about here is that he has incorrectly described him as being assaulted with the famous cement milkshakes, which never happened. He purposely leaves out information showing that right-wing groups are actively preparing to get in violent clashes with left-wing protesters with weaponry, and not only doesn't record it or write any information about it down, but doesn't talk about it publicly whatsoever, and then denies that it ever happened, and then denies further, when proof is further provided through audio format, that he had an understanding with such organizations like Patriot Prayer to protect them for favorable coverage. As in, I'm going to skew the truth, leave out the information showing you saying it right in front of me, getting prepared with weapons to get in violent clashes, as I show Antifa to be the violent ones, painting it as one-sided Antifa violence and patriotic counter-protesters who were just defending their communities and totally weren't acting like a fight club. So that's another reason Andy Ngo is not liked very much. Here's another example, and I'm just doing 3 today. There's much, much more. The hammer. The famous hammer incident. I say famous, but it's not nearly as famous as you think. So, we're going to look at this quick. This is footage which is still up on Andy Ngo's Twitter. Here's another thing about Andy Ngo. When he gets something wrong and everyone knows he gets something wrong, he doesn't take the tweets down. He doesn't offer corrections. He simply leaves it up and keeps going. Meaning, even though this has been clearly shown to be an inaccurate description and portrayal of events, a year or 2 later, he still has this tweet up. Can't seem to watch it. Oh, did he actually take it down? I'm gonna have milk on my face. Nope. No, he did not take it down. It's still here. Anyway, here it is. Antifa attack people on the bus. They try to pull them out and hit them with a hammer.
Pull those motherfuckers out! Hey, get the fuck out! Oh, he's got a hammer! Hey, no hammers! Oh, shit! Motherfucker! Sorry, my language. He threw a hammer.
Wow, that's terrible. Isn't that terrible, guys? It's terrible that someone would bring a hammer to this event and use it to attack peaceful protesters. I mean, look at that sign. Antifa are terrorists on the window. That's terrible. That is terrible. That's assault with a deadly weapon. See, Gail in chat is very worried. Very worried. Very worried. Assault with a deadly weapon. I agree. Terrible. There's just one problem. Antifa attacks people on a bus. They try to pull them out and hit them with a hammer. The number of views, over 3 million saw that and had their perception affected. Closer look. Someone on the bus appears to take the first hammer swing. A group of counter-protesters, some of them in helmets or their face covered, charge a small gray bus that is stopped in traffic on Morrison Bridge, off-ramp going down into Portland. They appear to scuffle with several people inside the bus. Through the vehicle's open door, a claw hammer can be seen being used. what happens in the moments before. Another video taken at a distance from a nearby parking lot appears to show at least 2 counter-protesters throwing projectiles at the shuttle bus while it stops on an off-ramp. One of the demonstrators also runs up the bus and pounds on the window with his hands. A large group of onlookers erupt into cheers when the group charges the bus. The second video goes on to show counter-protesters smashing windows. Terrible stuff. What goes on? There has been widely circulated claims, those made by reporters at the scene, that those riding the shuttle bus were Proud Boys. It appears they were actually members of the American Guard, a group of the Anti-Defamation League labels a white supremacist organization. What's the evidence? Okay, here's them, basically blah blah blah, a bunch of white supremacists. But who had the hammer first? Though it is somewhat grainy and hard to see, the original video shows someone inside the bus swinging the hammer at counter-protesters before it's wrested away and thrown back into the bus. A separate photo of the scuffle clearly shows that a man inside the shuttle bus had a hammer in his hand and was swinging it. Now, anybody who was there, and especially Andy Ngo, should have been able to see this. And even if he didn't see this, he should have been able to, after the fact, correct the record, which he didn't. So what happened was someone took out a hammer and started swinging it at the counter-protesters, the Antifa, whatever you want to call it. Then he drops the hammer, or a protester, while getting hit with the hammer, grabs it, pulls it back. Then throws the hammer back into the bus and hits the guy that was swinging it at them. But then Andy Ngo just takes that later part and says, look, assault with a deadly weapon, just like Gail and Chad said. Assault with a deadly weapon on peaceful pro-Trumpers. Not white nationalists, just protesters. The thing is, this is what Andy Ngo does all the time. He did it with the cement milkshakes. He did it by leaving out the information about Patriot Prayer when they were talking about assaulting Antifa with deadly weapons that they offers of protection that we have audio evidence of. We did it with the claw hammer incident, and he does it all the time. How do you know the picture wasn't taken after the hammer made it into the bus? Okay, I think we're being a little... I think we're trying to really drag this segment out, and as much as I appreciate the continuation of my YouTube monetization and the more money I could make out of having this be a longer video, subscribe, by the way. I think we should be clear. The bus drove off after the bus door closed, I'm pretty sure. So I don't think that would be possible. Not only did the bus drive off, but I also believe that, like, there is footage of these individuals engaging with this. Like, I mean, we can pretend that they threw it, it hit them, and then they reopened the door to just take a few more swings. You don't think that's a legit question? I'm just wondering. I think the evidence is pretty clear. I mean, multiple reporters at the scene said this is what happened, and we have a picture of this happening. One second, let's go back. Though it is somewhat grainy and hard to see, the original photo shows someone inside the bus swinging a hammer at counter-protesters before it's wrested away. So there's not only a picture of it, but also footage of it. And I think the footage is actually right here. Maybe. Right there. You see it? He starts swinging a hammer overhead. Then it's wrested away. And a little bit after this is when they throw the hammer in and they close the door, like we saw in the Andy Ngo video. Andy Ngo, you can see, is to your right over here. He's right over here. You can see him with his camera held to the side. And he specifically... Oh, no, is that Andy Ngo? I think that's Andy Ngo. Kind of hard to tell. It looked like him. But he was over on that angle anyway. Anyway, you can see that happening. Afterwards, the bus drove off, so I don't think it would have been possible. But yeah, no. So what I'm trying to get at here is Andy Ngo has a long history of disinformation, lying by omission, just straight up lying, and of course letting and specifically painting these interactions to 100% be Antifa in their violent, terrible manner, attacking the lovely individuals who are being peaceful and wonderful. And it's that painting of the picture. If he went into these events and just was like, here's some violence, here's more violence, let's give a clear picture of events, I wouldn't have a bad opinion of him. I'm sure a lot of people in the black bloc would, because they just don't like a lot of them don't like cameras, period. I learned that from myself being at some of these events. But he wouldn't be the world-renowned asshole that he is right now. Anyway, I'm not trying to say this to paint like Antifa as like a thing that's never, a black bloc that's never done no wrong. I'm saying this because Andy Ngo isn't trying to be a reporter here. He's trying to paint it as patriotic, counter-Republican, right-wing, wonderful protesters who do no wrong, and the evil Antifa, who no matter what happens is in the wrong, they're bad, they need to be demonized. If you think Antifa's in the wrong, you don't need to do the spin doctor with this hammer. You don't need to do the spin doctor with the cement milkshakes. If you think they're in the wrong, you don't need to exclude information of the Patriot Prayer Organization getting weapons to get ready to engage in bar fights, basically, like a fight club. If you think they're in the wrong, just film and show what happened. No spins attached. You don't have to spin it if you think they're in the wrong. And that's what makes him not a journalist and makes him, in my opinion, a propagandist. Because he is not covering these events. He is trying to specifically go there with a narrative already designed beforehand and tried to cut footage and say things that never happened to specifically make one side look undoubtedly evil and the other side look like a bunch of angels. That's what makes him a propagandist and not a reporter. And that's why anytime he's seen at this event, he gets the reaction he got from the black bloc. Definitely when he's trying to dress up at the black bloc and be there, because those people, while what they did was wrong, probably saw Andy Ngo and thought, this is somebody who's going to incite some nonsense. This is somebody who's going to do a spin doctor job here, make us all look like the devil, which is going to help Republican legislature pass more anti-protester bills across the country. It's going to help Republican legislatures make it easier to run over protesters with bills they're pushing right now, and that's the problem. Right-wingers don't attack Andy Ngo? You're right. You want to know why? Because he makes deals beforehand to not cover them attacking left-wingers. Of course they don't attack Andy Ngo, because he's on their side. This shows Hammer being taken away from the folks on the bus. Thank you very much. Can you give me a timestamp so I don't have to watch the whole video? I don't want to risk it. Anyway, it's bad that he was assaulted. But anyone calling this man a journalist is completely delusional. Should right-wingers beat you up when you show up wearing a Biden for President t-shirt? No. I opened this up by saying he shouldn't have been assaulted. But you know what? Just because I support a certain side doesn't mean I'm going to lie by omission and or just make up things that never happened. Starts at 140. Thank you so much. See right there, he has the hammer. He opens the door, he has the hammer. Right there. And then they grab the hammer and they pull it away. And then they threw the hammer back in. Okay, there's your evidence that they had the hammer first and they swung the hammer first. There you go. Is everyone satisfied? Gail, are you satisfied with that evidence? That very clear video evidence? Okay, wonderful. Andy Ngo, our favorite propagandist.